Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Introspect with me, Sharon Mwangi. Karibuni sana. If you're new here, welcome, feel at home. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. Yeah, so let's get into today's video. How have I been? I've been good. I've been good. I'm really happy. What I'm grateful for this week is happiness and joy and peace. I mean, it's been a good week. I mean, my skin is even glowing. I have that smell that doesn't go away. I just feel very happy. Let's get straight into today's video, into today's topic. So starting from last week, I've started a mini series to talk about the fathers of psychology, or rather the founding fathers of this thing we call psychology. And if you haven't watched last week's video, please go check it out. We talked about a very interesting human being, and today we're going to talk about another very interesting human being. Now, just a disclaimer, you need to fasten your seatbelts. For my emotional, sensitive people, you better get ready. Because the story of this guy, anytime I hear it, anytime I read about this person, I don't know why, but I just get so emotional. I get so emotional. Actually, the lecture lesson when I was learning this in class, I was fighting for my life. I had balancing tears throughout the whole class. So yeah, for my sensitive people, please grab some tissue because it's about to go down. Today we're going to talk about none other than Alfred Adler. Alfred Adler was an Austrian psychologist. He was born in the 1800s, late 1800s, died in the early 1900s. He came from a kawaida family. He had one dad, one mom, and he was the second born out of 7 siblings. And now here is where the drama begins. I hope you have your tissue ready. So, first things first. When Adler was 3 years old, his younger brother died next to him. Yeah, what a way to start. When he was like a young boy, he had a younger brother who died next to him. And I know some of you are thinking like, oh, but he was just 3 years old. Kwani mtoto wa miaka 3 anaelewa nini? He doesn't know much. It's true, probably a 3-year-old cannot understand the whole concept of death, but I think a child can understand the concept of this person who I love and I cared about is here and all of a sudden is no longer here. So yeah, so already Alfred's life started on the basis of trauma, like serious trauma. That was hit number 1. Hit number 2, remember I mentioned that Alfred was the second born? So he had an older brother and they had a bad rivalry with this brother. And the reason for their rivalry is that Alfred thought and felt like his mom loved and favored the firstborn more than himself. Ali feel like mamake was not giving him the love and the support probably he desired because alikuwa na favor the firstborn. Although Alfred had a good relationship with the dad, he still felt like that part of being loved by the mom, he felt kind of neglected on that area. So that is hit number 2. Hit number 3. Alfred was diagnosed with rickets. Like for a while in his childhood, he had rickets. And he could not be able to walk up until he was like 4 years old. So you can imagine. Not only has your brother died beside you when you were sleeping together, not only are you feeling left out because you feel like you're not receiving the love and the care and the support that you want from your mom, but now you have rickets. Can it get any worse than this? Can it get any harder than this? Yes, it's gonna get hard. Hit number 4. When Adler was 4 years old, he was diagnosed with pneumonia. I mean, it's like this guy's story just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So he's diagnosed with pneumonia and he became a very sickly child throughout like his whole childhood. He was a very sickly child. He was diagnosed with pneumonia. And then remember guys, this is the 1800s. Medicine was not what it is now. So pneumonia wasn't one of those things to just like be like, oh, it's just pneumonia. Like it was a serious big deal. It was so bad that Adler one time overheard his very own doctor telling the dad, your boy is a lost boy. Can you imagine? You've gone to a doctor. This is the doctor who's supposed to give you hope. And what you hear the doctor saying is that you're a lost case, you're a lost boy. And guess what, guys? It gets even worse. In Adler's lifetime, he was run over twice. He was run over twice. It's like the universe was out to get this young boy. You know, already been run over once. It's quite something heavy. For it to happen twice, on top of every other thing that you're going through, oh my God, it must have been tough, very, very tough for Adler. I can only imagine how difficult his life and his childhood must have been. But in as much as he had a very difficult childhood, it did not stop him from making a great impact in the psychological space. So what he did is he got into this medical field, into the psychiatric field. Remember the guy we talked about last week, Sigmund Freud? They were kind of co-workers for a while, but then Alfred decided to take a step back and he branched out and he started his own school of thought. And yeah, he made amazing contributions to what psychology is today. He had a lot to talk about personality. He had a lot to talk about, parenting styles. He had a lot to say also about something we call inferiority and superiority complex. Yeah, he had very good things to say. He actually also had a lot to say about birth order, in that our behavior is kind of affected by our birth order. Yani, kama wewe ni firstborn, middleborn, ama lastborn, there's a kind of way you tend to behave. Yeah, he was a fan of all of that. So he turned out to be quite a very impactful person. However, I still feel like life didn't do him justice, because the way he died also was kind of very depressing. He was just walking on some pavement and he collapsed. He fell. He collapsed, and it's kind of a bit dramatic, because there's an article I was reading that said that when he collapsed and fell motionless on the ground, someone came running, to like open and adjust his collar just to make sure he's okay. And his last word was Kurt, K-U-R-T, and that was the name of his son. So, I mean, that sounds like a scene from a movie. His life was quite dramatic. Yeah. Anyway, so today I'd like us to look at one of the concepts that he talked about, which is the inferiority complex and superiority complex. So according to Alfred Adler, he believed that from the very time we are born, anyone who was born, as long as you were born into this world having a feeling of inferiority, feelings of inferiority or an inferiority complex. What that means is that you did not feel a sense of importance or of value, or you were not special. Like every single one of us, when we come to Earth, we come carrying inferiority feelings, which you can take with a pinch of salt, because like you've heard his life story kind of explains why he would think that way, or he would come up with such a concept, because all his life he was made to feel very inferior. But according to him, he believed that all of us as humans, from the moment we are kids, we do not feel very special, we do not feel very valued. We have those inferiority feelings from the time we are born. And he said that for these inferiority feelings, as we grow as adults, how we are brought up, our upbringing, the parenting style of our parents, our environment, they are the determining factors of whether we will carry on with these inferiority feelings up until adulthood, or will grow out of them. And he attributed it to the fact that as a child, you depend on everyone for something. You cannot do things for yourself, you cannot do things by yourself, so you feel like you do not have as much value, because your whole existence revolves around the assistance and the help that you get from people around you. Now, like he mentioned, according to him, the way to get out of this inferiority complex was determined by your upbringing, how your parents raised you, the environment you grew up in. And he had a lot to say about the parenting styles especially. He mentioned that parents who were either of these extremes, either they were the pampering kind of parents or the very extreme of the neglecting type kind of parents. Anyone who was brought up by such parents of these both extremes, as an adult, they did not grow out of the inferiority complex, because both of these situations enable those thoughts and feelings of inferiority, feeling undervalued, feeling not important, or feeling like you cannot take control of your own actions, you cannot be your own person. So he believed that your upbringing and your environment really determined whether you would be able to graduate from inferiority complex and become a healthy human being. Now, on the other side, we have superiority complex. Now, this superiority complex, he described it as an overcompensation method for those inferior feelings. What I mean by that is this: if you did not have a good childhood, or you did not have the right upbringing, or your environment was hostile towards you, or you just had complications in your upbringing that did not enable you to grow out of those inferiority feelings and that inferiority complex, you develop what we call the superiority complex, which in layman's terms, in very simple terms, it is like a facade you put out for people because you still have those feelings of inferiority, but you still want to feel important. You want to feel special, you want to feel valued, you want to feel like your voice matters. But because you haven't dealt with those feelings in childhood, you still have them as an adult. So what do? You fake it, you know? You start doing these grandiose things. Superiority complex mostly revolves around demanding power and wanting to feel respected, even at the expense of other people. Superiority complex comes from a point of, I feel inadequate, I feel inferior, I feel like I'm not important, I feel like I'm not special, I don't feel like there's something unique about me, but I don't want other people to see that about me, I don't want other people to know that about me. So what do? I put up a show. I have the most expensive bags, I have the most expensive lifestyle. I just portray this version of myself that is not true, even at the expense of other people, just because I want to cover up my inferiority. That is what superiority complex is. A feeling of you wanting to be important, valued, respected. You want to have that sense of power and control because deep within you, you do not have that. I know it sounds like kind of a stretch, but when you think about it, a lot of us probably have a superiority complex and you don't even know about it. And you don't even know it. A lot of us have come to realize as adults, the way we carry ourselves probably isn't the truth about who we are inside. I think like a lot of adults have had very difficult childhoods. They have gone through a lot. They probably have had the toughest upbringings. Probably they've had parents who are very abusive. They would call them all sorts of names, or you just didn't grow up in a very friendly environment. And now as an adult, you have really low self-esteem. You don't think you're important, you don't think you'll amount to anything, but because you have not dealt with those inferior feelings and you've not dealt with those feelings of inadequacy, you try your very best to fake and show up as someone who you're not. Some of us are just people deep down inside, we are hurting, we are in pain, we are going through it, but you want to put up a facade as though you're okay. You're trying to cover up who you really are with those designer bags and that big lifestyle and that big personality telling everybody, "Me only you, mitambui." You want to feel important. You want to feel accepted. You want to feel respected because you never had that in your childhood. It's like, think of bullies, the whole concept of bullying. Do you know a lot of bullies are people who have a really low self-esteem, and the only way they feel good about themselves is when they see another person beneath them, or when they take the power from someone. That is just an example of someone who is struggling with inferiority feelings. Probably this person was never affirmed growing up. Probably you were never told you are beautiful, or you're smart, or you're good looking, or you'll amount to something. Probably nobody ever told you those words. So now as an adult, you try to put up a face like you are those things, when really deep down within you know you're not content with where you are and with who you are. The essence of this video, first of all, is just to say, one, sorry. I'm sorry that you did not have a childhood, or your upbringing wasn't the best, and sorry that you did not manage to grow out of those inferiority feelings. Sorry that the people who should have been there to defend you, to protect you, to affirm you, never did their job right, and now you have to struggle as an adult by putting up a face and living a fake life, just because you do not want people to see who you really are inside. And we empathize with that. And just to let you know, it's a normal feeling, all right? It's a normal feeling. But you still have time and a chance to turn things around. You still have a chance to live your most authentic life, to live as your most authentic self. Because number one, it starts from healing. You need to go back to those inferior feelings and actually dig deep inside. I know it's going to be ugly, and I know it's going to be messy, and it's going to be crazy, but you need it. The only way you're going to be able to get to a point where you are your most fulfilled self and you're the happiest version of yourself is when you start dealing with those things about yourself. True healing and true change only comes when you show up as your most authentic self, not as the image that you have put up and you've worked so hard to build, not as the person who people think you are. No, true healing and true change starts when you show up as your most authentic self. This is like a message for you to start therapy, because therapy is one of those things that will help you unpack those inferior feelings, those inferiority thoughts and feelings that you have about yourself, and to let you know that it wasn't your fault. Some of those things probably weren't your fault, and you have the opportunity to start showing up as your real authentic self. And after dealing with those heavy emotions, after dealing with those inferior feelings and those inferior thoughts, you no longer have to have that superiority complex of trying to put on a facade and a show. Now you can be able to show up as a strong person, not because you are faking to be strong, but because you really are strong. You can be able to stand up confidently, in confidence, and say, I think I'm the most beautiful. I think I'm fly. I think I'm the most amazing human being. And you're not saying that as a way to cover up or to compensate or overcompensate for something or a weakness you have, but you're saying it from a point of truth, that you believe that about yourself. Sit down with yourself, like really analyze who you are right now. Like when you walk around and say that I am respected, I am valued, I am important, is it because you truly believe that, or is it because you just put on a show? Do you think people respect the real you, or do you think people respect the image you present to them? Do you think people like you, or they like the image you're trying to fake and the image you're trying to portray? Are you really happy, or is it your grand lifestyle that makes you happy? And if there's anything you can draw from Alfred's life, Adler's life, is that do not let those things that probably happened that you had no control over be what shape you and define who you are. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that probably you had a difficult childhood. Whatever happened to you, probably most of those things weren't your fault. And it's okay to pick yourself up and say that now as an adult, yeah, I have this front. My friends, my colleagues, my family, they know me as this strong person, but it's about time you start to show up as the real authentic self that you are and say like, yeah, I actually don't like myself. And just be honest with yourself and be like, yeah, I actually don't like myself. I actually don't like the person I am. I actually am not confident. I actually struggle with low self-esteem. And it's okay. We can start from there and we can work towards building a beautiful personality, the beautiful real image of who you really are. Woo! That felt like a pep talk. Yeah, anyway, so the introspection question for the day is, am I truly content with who I am deep down inside? Thank you so much for watching today's video. Thank you for sticking through to the end. Please remember to like, to share, to subscribe, leave a comment down below, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video. Bye!